Hello everyone, welcome back to Coach Craig's Sports. This is the MLB DFS video for today, Tuesday, September 26th. There was no MLB DFS video yesterday. It was, a weird slate where there was only 3 games, kind of West Coast late start and everything else like that. So I didn't really want to play that one myself. Didn't really feel like it was worth covering at that point in time. So if you were looking for that video, I do apologize for that first of all. But the way I will be formatting today's video, no recap since we didn't do a video yesterday. We'll go over the weather report, take a look at any potential weather spots for today. There's going to be 4 games in total that we'll look at in regards to that. Then we'll get over to FanDuel, talk about my core 5 picks. It's going to be a combination based on past history and their respective matchups, plus a combination of recent history as well. After that, we'll get over to the YouTube community tab, take a look at my cheat sheet and the top GPP teams to stack for today overall. That cheat sheet is 100% free. It's up on Facebook, it's up on Twitter, it's up on the YouTube community tab, so definitely be sure to check it out. If you're interested in more in-depth notes, also be sure to check out the Patreon at patreon.com/CoachCraigSports. You'll get notable hitter versus pitcher matchups. You'll get pitchers, whether or not I would consider them in play, a risky play, or a straight-up avoid. And then some additional top stacks on some of the larger states Monday through Friday. So definitely be sure to check that out. Very small monthly donation over there. You also get access to some NFL DFS content, some CFL DFS content, some NFL fantasy football content as well. But without further ado, we'll get started with that weather report for today. So the first game that we'll be looking at is this New York Mets game where there is a 38% chance of rain. They're going against the Marlins today, so that's one we'll monitor throughout the day. Looks like the wind's blowing in quite a bit there, so could be an interesting one. And then we'll move down to Atlanta, 14% chance of rain versus the Chicago Cubs today in Atlanta. So there'll be one that we monitor, and doesn't look like anything too major though. And then in Chicago with the White Sox though, the White Sox and the Diamondbacks, this looks like a really good game to stack, but there is an 81% chance of rain today. So that is one that we will definitely take a look at very much so throughout the day, monitor to see how it goes. And then last but not least, we go down to Minnesota, who is playing against the Oakland A's. 35% chance of rain there. Looks like the wind's blowing in there as well. So should be a pretty interesting game. We'll keep an eye out on that one as well. As always, if anything majorly changes throughout the day in terms of weather, we'll leave it down in the comments, as well as the starting laps as they do come out throughout the late afternoon and early evening. But without further ado, we'll get moved over to FanDuel and talk about those core picks that I do have for today. So we're going to start off with pitcher Bailey Ober today at $9,000. Going against the Oakland A's should be a pretty favorable matchup. He really doesn't have much history at all against the Oakland A's. The only hitter that he's faced before is Almeida Diaz, who is 0 for 2 versus him. So we'll see how that ultimately shakes out, but do like the upside that he could present at $9,000. Been a little bit hit or miss as of late in terms of pitching, but if he's on top of his game today against Oakland, it's going to look pretty good. 7 wins in total on the season, a 3.66 ERA, averaging about 29.5 fantasy points. So do like the upside that he could present today. It's going to be a really good day to mix and match at the pitcher position just in general. Whether you want to pay up for like a Kevin Gausman, whether you want to go to $8,600 Michael King, who pitched really well against Toronto last time, or even taking a chance in a pay-down option to Reed Detmers at $7,300. Then we're going to move down to first base with Josh Bell. He's $2,700. He is going against Joey Lucchesi today. He's 3 for 10 versus him in his career. In the last 10 games that Josh Bell has started, he's got at least 1 hit in 8 of those games. 4 of those games have been multi-hit games. He does also have 2 home runs during that time span. So do like the upside that he could present at kind of a pay down option at first base today. 248 average on the season, 22 home runs, 69 RBIs, averaging just under 9 fantasy points per game, but doing a little bit better as of late, like I mentioned, which is something that's good to see for him since he's usually a guy that's not as great in the second half. Then we're going to move down to our third baseman, Emmanuel Rivera. He's $2,300. This is a guy that we need to make sure is in that starting lineup, but if he is, he's going to be a very interesting pay down option. You could play him at third base or first base if you really wanted to, but he's $2,300, averaging about 6.5 fantasy points per game, 262 average, 4 home runs, 29 RBIs on the season. Not the greatest stats there. But in his career versus Jose Urena, who is the expected starting pitcher for the Chicago White Sox today, he's 3 for 7 with 3 home runs. So do like the upside that he's there. Every hit that he's had against Urena in his career has been a home run. So looks pretty good there. He's got at least 1 hit in his last 4 games that he started. Kind of hard to say there just because there's some pinch hit at bats in there as well in between that. But do like the upside that he could present today at a reasonable pay down price. You just got to make sure that he is ultimately in that starting lineup for today. Then we're going to move over to shortstop and Xander Bogaerts at $3,200. He is averaging about 10 fantasy points per game, 283 average, 19 home runs, 55 RBIs in total on the season. He is 2 for 2 with 1 home run versus Kyle Harrison, who is the expected starting pitcher for the San Francisco Giants today. He has at least 1 hit in 9 out of his last 10 games, including 8 multi-hit games during that time span. So the upside for Xander Bogaerts today and as of late has been really good. Do like him, and that $3,200 price tag is actually a pretty reasonable price tag at that, so do like the upside that he could present once again today. And then last but not least, we're going with his teammate Juan Soto at $4,200. He is 1 for 3 with 1 home run in his career versus Kyle Harrison, the expected starting pitcher once again for the San Francisco Giants. He has at least 1 hit in 12 out of his last 13 games, including 6 multi-hit games during that time span. 273 average, 33 home runs, 105 RBIs on the season, averaging about 12.5 fantasy points per game at $4,200. So that's kind of where I'm at in terms of the core picks for today. If you would go with the 5 that I do have listed here, you have $13,600 remaining, $3,400 remaining per player. So some room and flexibility if you want to pay up, then pay down at a couple other spots. Or if you want to take a little bit more balanced approach, that's definitely fine on today's slate. Looks like a pretty strong slate to mix and match. Once again, there could be some weather factors, so we'll keep an eye out on that throughout the day. But this is kind of where I'm at least at the beginning of the day for the players that I want to highlight for my core picks overall. But with that being said, we'll move over to the YouTube community tab and talk about my top GPP teams to stack. The first 2 that I have are going to be in that major weather spot in Chicago. We got the Diamondbacks and the White Sox. So on the Diamondbacks side, they're going against Jose Urena. A lot of these guys have hit him pretty well in the past. Already mentioned Emmanuel Rivera, who's got the 3 home runs versus him. Ketel Marte is another guy, if he ultimately ends up starting, that's like 4 for 7 versus him. A couple other upside plays from that Diamondbacks lineup as well. And then on the Chicago White Sox side, going against Zach Davies, a lot of them have hit him pretty well, although it's not a long list of history. But Tim Anderson, Eloy Jimenez, Andrew Vaughn, a couple others here and there to mix and match. But ultimately, we need to make sure that game is going to go off. You know, the White Sox do have a pretty good ground screw, but just kind of ultimately depends on how bad that weather ends up being. And then we have the Chicago Cubs going against Bryce Elder. Not a long list of history here, but they did hit him really hard earlier this season. So if you want to get to some Cubs bats here and there, it does make some sense. Dansby Swanson did hit a home run versus him earlier this season. And then for the Milwaukee Brewers going against Zach Thompson, he's had a lot of relief appearances versus them. And then his most recent start versus the Brewers, not the greatest. I do like the upside that they could present for today's slate overall. But with that being said, that's kind of what I have in terms of MLB DFS Core Picks, in terms of top stacks and the weather report for today. As always, if you have any questions related to MLB DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comments below and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Also, be sure to let me know your favorite play on today's slate, whether it is someone from my Core 5 picks, whether it is someone from my top GPP stacks, or whether it's a completely different player you guys think I'm definitely interested in hearing who that is for you today. But with that being said, that's pretty much what I do have. If you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, we have MLB DFS Monday through Friday. We got CFL DFS video coming up once a week. We got NFL DFS video once a week as well. Was not able to get to that on Saturday. Had a couple other things happen, so wasn't able to get to that for week number 3, but we'll be back for week 4. Also, be sure to check out the Patreon for all that additional DFS content, fantasy football content. Like I said, very small monthly donation over there. And then before I get out of here, just want to promote a couple different places. If you're going out and want to do some props, you want to do some sports betting, be sure to check out Prize Picks, Parlay Play, and BetUS. All down in the description below. If you use the code or the link down there, you'll get a first match deposit up to $100 for pretty much most of them. And it helps you out a little bit, helps me a little bit out on the side as well. But with that being said, that's all I have for today's video. Do truly appreciate each and every one of you checking out. Hopefully each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS tonight.